What's up, everybody? Welcome back to ALLSMITH. Today's episode is a solo episode. We've got a lot of things to unpack. We've had some great questions in our DMs from our audience, from our community, from people in the gym, people near, far, everything in between. And before I jump in, guys, I want to really put out and ask, hit that subscribe button, listen to some of these episodes, not because we just want the analytics all the time, but because there's some valuable conversations. Maybe there's some cool, relatable stories that will add some positivity into your life. Maybe help reframe a couple things, or maybe it's said in a way that might be a little bit more digestible as to a problem that you're navigating, an experience that you're going through, a relationship that might be more challenging. And we're very fortunate to connect with some of the world's highest performers, coach people weekly, have some great conversations with great brands, great people, and just carving out the time, right? How many of us wish we could sit on a park bench with a particular individual and have some hard conversations or some meaningful conversations, and we just don't make the time to do so. And so that's what I hope this is. Throw it on in the background during a drive, throw it on while you're folding laundry or going for a walk, and hit that subscribe button, leave us a review. Give us a 5-star review. It really helps us keep promoting the project. And more often than not, I forget to put out the ask, but a huge theme of today's conversation is going to be, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And so as we dive in today, guys, thank you for being here. And let me give you a quick why. Why are we here? Why are we going to listen to this podcast? And it really exists to interrupt the drift. Right? How many of us are just trying to make it to our pillow at nighttime and headspace starts to drift and we lose a tangible grasp as to what do we actually want? The amount of times I ask somebody weekly, what is it that you want? They're like, I don't know. And so the goal is to really think about returning people to the authorship of their own lives. You hold the pen as to your next choice, your next decision. You're not a slave to just the rat race. You're incentivized based on a fear-based model to make money. And based on location, demographic, choices that have led up to that point, we oftentimes feel this level of stuckness. And so that's what today's conversation is about. Your life feels heavy because you won't decide. You won't decide to fully commit to the life that you want. And there's various reasons for that. It's not to blame. It's not to create a victim mentality. It's to create awareness and recognition that we are a culmination of all the choices that we made up until this moment. There's different factors. There's trauma responses, trauma experiences. But at the end of the day, taking full accountability and ownership for where we are exactly in this moment has to do with our choices. And so the one word that I want to float around and kind of play ping pong in your headspace today is the word decide. Decide that you want a better life. Decide that you're going to make better choices. Decide to have that hard conversation that you've been avoiding. And just wait till later. I'm going to dive deep into avoidance and deflection and ghosting culture, which it's almost like closet eating or closet behavior. When you don't respond to that text, you almost feel it just disappears because it's not actually in your consciousness. But it's no, it's still there. You chose to just be avoidant. And sometimes that avoidance is the rope that you could climb to this next level of your life, and you're making that choice to not actively participate. You're being an observer in the human experience, but not an active participant. And so, this is not to blame. This is not to be mean or have a hard conversation. It's simply to create awareness, because what you're not changing, you're choosing. Let's get into it, guys. I'm a big believer that writing fills the gaps within our thinking. And these solo episodes are very challenging for me. But there's something that I consistently lean in towards. And I have our amazing podcast producer and strategist, Ernest, pull me out of this despite my consistent stiff arming of it. because I know that it helps me get to another level. It helps me create connection with all of you. And so with that being said, let's think about what's going on in the world today. There's a weight that many people are carrying. It's not in the body, but it's in life. The quiet knowing, the conversations that you're avoiding, the decisions that are delayed. And so when we say life is heavy, it's not really life. It's the cost of not choosing. The cost of not choosing better. The cost of being stuck is not actively making the decision to take action. Every day we don't decide, we drift further from the person we can be, and we feel like we're trying to emerge into something, but we're just drifting. It's almost like the imagery of like you're sitting on shore and who you are is trying to get to land, and there's treasure and there's all kinds of things over there, but you're observing the ship just kind of drift away time and time again. And that's a painful truth. And that's something that I was kind of reflecting on. And so when I put pen to paper and wanted to share this with all of you, I came down to a small collection of words or a phrase that I think will align with you guys today. The heaviest things in life are the decisions we never make. The heaviest things in life are the decisions we never make. So today's conversation, we're talking about choice. We're talking about your relationship with regret, with how you choose to spend your time, how you choose to navigate adversity, and the quiet courage that is required to design a life instead of just inheriting one. Notice the emphasis on the word design. What we talk about with ALLSMITH is lifestyle design, not lifestyle settling, not, oh, poor me, this thing happened, so I had to do this thing. No. Designing the life that aligns with your greatest expression. So when you sit in those quiet moments and you self-reflect on, oh, must be nice. Okay, what does must be nice look like? Is that circumstantial, momentary, just bitching and complaining? Or do you actually have a clear picture of what you want? What a beautiful life looks like? What does your bank account look like? Where are you located? What does your body look like? How do you operate? How many kids do you have? How many kids do you not have? Where do you want to travel? What do you want your day-to-day actions to be? What time do you want to wake up in the morning? What does breakfast look like? What's morning routine, evening routine? How is your day structured? What gives you fulfillment, purpose, and passion? Also, if you were to get all of these things, would you actually be fulfilled? Or would you be like, whoa, I thought I wanted this, but then I got it and realized it was a lot harder than I thought. Everything's going to cost something. And so today's conversation is really diving deep and exploring this concept of the heaviest things in life are the decisions we never make. This is ALLSMITH, guys. Let's get into it. The first thing that came to mind when I was putting pen to paper and in my reflection the last couple of weeks, based on a lot of our conversations and a lot of my coaching experiences, unmade decisions, man. That's where we started within our intro. And indecision, to me, it's like energetic drag. It's like you have this weight attached at the hip and you're trying to walk forward, but you're attached to a sled. So every step is just like, ugh. And we want to make the decision, but inevitably it feels hard, right? The hard conversation, paying that bill when we don't really have the money to do it and we want to save money for something else. The frustration of the past. Oh, I should have done this. Or I could have done that. But then realizing, oh my gosh, like, this is a decision that needs to be made. I'm tossing and turning in the middle of the night because I haven't made this decision. And so what I think about is that avoidance of making that decision or paying that bill or doing that thing, it compounds tension. And now when you're trying to free flow or you're trying to be like water, to echo Bruce Lee, you're stiff, you're tight. You've got pain that's manifesting. The body keeps the score. We talk about that often. You've got brain fog. You're operating from a place now where your nervous system is a little heavier. It's put on a few pounds and it's not the holidays. And so what I'm sharing there is that clarity requires courage. It requires you to develop the confidence and the wherewithal of like, hey, I'm going to make this decision because this decision is causing me to lose sleep or not be present. But I have so much confidence that when I make that decision, I'll figure it out on the other side. That doesn't mean it's perfect. That doesn't mean it's easy. If it's financial, if it's health related, if it's work related, right? Oftentimes in the show, we talk about faith, family, fitness, finances, fashion, and fun. Well, those are just different spokes within the wheel. The goal is to try to keep each of those things over 65%. That'd be a really good goal. The reality is that just doesn't happen all the time. But the choice begins by forging. And by forging, and when we use that phrase to create a definition of that term, it's refining yourself in the midst of adversity. And when you think of adversity, you have to be an active participant. And one of the thoughts that landed this morning was just, it's so funny to me when we post something and you see the huge amount of views, but the small amount of comments. Everybody wants to like take in the information or like sort of see things, but they're unwilling to leave a comment. How many times do we think of a friend, but we don't send them the text? How many times do we realize that we have a problem with snack eating, making poor choices with our sleep hygiene, getting buried in scroll or doom scrolling, like getting buried in Netflix, making poor choices that aren't adding value, but inevitably we just ignore them. What you're not changing, you're choosing. So the choice begins in forging. And when I say forging, it's making the hard choice. Where in the beginning, it feels tensionous. But over the course of time, that decision gets easier. Why? Because you wake up feeling better. You're not watching Netflix anymore. You're not doom scrolling and wasting your time. You're getting more quality time with people. You're getting more mental clarity. You're choosing to actively prepare a healthy meal that you know the ingredient profile. But then if we're trying to save time or we're trying to do something that, you know, is a little more dopamine pursuant, oh, we're just hitting that Uber Eats. Well, then we wonder, why are we putting on these extra pounds? Where are we navigating frustration with our bank account? And so to circle back on this first point, guys, this is just to create awareness around the weight of indecision. The heaviest things in life are unmade decisions. Try your best to make decisions that are going to lead your life in the direction that you want to go. And if you're not, have the ownership and the accountability to realize, like, I am the problem. And when I decide that I'm going to change, oh, there you go. That word is back again. When I decide to change, the rest of my life can be the best of my life. And this is not a slap on the wrist. This is not to be mean. I'm telling you the things that I also need to hear. So this is just a subtle reminder, friend to friend, to help guide your life towards your peak expression. Let's play with another thought that floated to the surface in the last couple of weeks. You're living the life you hate because you're afraid of a few uncomfortable conversations. Uncomfortable conversations. Those suck. They don't feel good. I had this friend. He's been on the podcast before. You guys should check him out. His name's Joe Musselman. And he said to me about 3 or 4 years ago when I first started like getting the itch to jump into entrepreneurship, he goes, Bryce, the most successful people are comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. They don't take them personal. They use them as data. And that helped me inspire myself to pursue putting out an ask, knowing very well that I was going to get rejected, that I was going to get avoidance, that I was going to get doors slammed on my face, emails that were just never answered, ghost culture, all those things. But you have to have the courage to actively participate, because every single no, guys, gets you closer to a yes. If you only knew how many rejections that it took to lead to success, you'd continue to pursue the no's. And I'm learning this firsthand. It doesn't feel good. I'm not preaching from a high horse here. I'm saying things that I'm in the midst of right now. Like the amount of times I walk home to my family and I'm just like, man, like today didn't feel so good. We had a lot of hard conversations or tough negotiations, but they were in pursuit of love, of service, of courage, of moving the needle in the right direction. And if they weren't had, I would always wonder, what if? And so the little sentiment that I want to share your way, silence means misalignment. You're creating scenarios in your head. Oh, if I would have said that or could have said this, I don't want to ruffle those feathers. I'll just leave it as is. But when you create certain boundaries, it creates an identity. It creates a self-respect. When you create truth, it collapses false narratives. The hard conversations help you free yourself. And so removing the expectation and realizing, similar to what they say in yoga, hard conversations are simply practice. They're you getting on the mat to actively practice communication, to share your needs, your wants, your desires, your grievances. Because communication is funny. It's like hieroglyphics. What I say and what you hear may not be the same. So it's constant refinement. It has to do with tone. It has to do with body language. It has to do with interpretation, experiences, flavors, like the ambiance, the lighting, the noise, the movement of the hands, the posture. There's so many things. I think they've said this numerous times. Like 90% of communication is nonverbal. And so certain people's body language may not be in alignment with the words that they're saying. And so taking that into consideration so that you realize that communication is simply inputs versus outputs. And it becomes data that's not labeled good or bad. It's seeking to understand. And when I say seeking to understand, that's a theme that comes up a lot in the podcast. And that is like, be more curious than judgmental. You don't know where somebody else is operating from. They might be operating from lack. They might be operating from a previous relationship. They might be operating from a place of fear. And so rather than just, creating a boundary that's like so rigid and this huge barrier where there can't be porous penetration between left and right and connective culture, ask more questions, try to gain more information, and almost think of it as like pickleball or tennis, where you're just kind of hitting the ball, or ping pong. You're hitting the ball back and forth. And sometimes you're hitting it and you're trying to rally, and sometimes people are trying to like smack the thing, and like better understanding the why and creating those expectations. We say this almost every day within coaching. Unexplained expectations are premeditated resentments. So creating expectations around a conversation or a negotiation or a business deal or a personal relationship or a friendship or family, or even with self, will help create a little bit more alignment. So there's more curiosity than judgment. I thought that one was like a really cool one. So if you should maybe write some things down, backtrack a little bit, take that, put it in your back pocket, because I think that's a little strategy that I wish I would have had sooner, that I'm thankful to pay forward with you guys. This one's big. This one's really, really big. Regrets are inevitable. The key is choosing the ones that you can tolerate. Whoa. I used to interpret this as an athlete with the concept of the pain of suffering is way better than the pain of regret. Nothing worse than getting to the end of a run or a workout or a game and thinking, oh, I could have done that. Well, you didn't. And then when you actively, get a few years under your belt and you get a little bit more maturity, you realize, okay, inevitably there's going to be regrets. They're inevitable. But which regrets am I willing to tolerate? That's a hell of a question. Because every path excludes another. Everything costs something. If I choose to spend my time doing this podcast, that's time that I'm choosing not to coach. That's time that I'm choosing not to train. That's time that I'm choosing away from my family, amongst other choices. And so you have to choose which regret are you willing to tolerate. It goes back to taking full ownership and accountability for our choices, because life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. And so what a lot of today's conversation is around is it's around taking this eraser on the dry erase board around this word victim. That's what I want you guys to kind of sit with today. What areas of your life are you a victim? Where can you make better choices? And not beating yourself up because of choices you've made in the past. You may have made them subconsciously. You may not even be aware. But they're things that you can now create awareness to. And I'm a huge believer that every moment is an opportunity to begin again. And that was my greatest asset as a basketball player. I can miss 10 shots, but I always believed the 11th was going in. And I hope to pay that forward to you guys and realize that you're not your past. You're you now. And you can make the choice to upgrade your operating system and realize, okay, those choices or that environment or those people or those things are no longer serving me. And your future self deserves a better version of you. And so where can we make slightly better choices so that way we can realize that we're tolerating different regrets that are in alignment with the person that you want to become. This other one's fun. This is one that I've sat with a lot, and it's this push and pull between time and money. Especially in California, everything is so expensive. And they talk about the sunshine tax. They talk about all the perks that you get in California, but it also comes at a cost. Once again, what regret are you willing to tolerate? More often than not, what I observe, and I do this too, we trade the thing we want most, time, for the thing that's supposed to give it, money. We trade our time hoping that we're going to get money, which is supposed to buy back our time. Doesn't always work that way. More often what I see, money gives us freedom momentarily. And I see more often than not people trading their health in pursuit of wealth, hoping that later on in life, when they get the knock on the door of a health issue or a cancer diagnosis or some sort of inflammatory issue, they think that they're going to use their wealth to then regain their health, and it's often too late. It's an interesting dichotomy because it's hard to just guarantee, right? Like, people love to invest in health insurance because there's doctors, there's this narrative created around, hey, if you have a problem, we will fix you. It's a narrative. It's a story that's been implanted into our headspace. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Especially in the case of a potential cancer diagnosis. I watched 2 parents pass away from cancer. Hundreds of millions of dollars invested into cancer treatment. I've still not seen a cure. Recently, I've seen some things pop out, and I'm hoping that we can kind of steer the ship in that direction as far as a ketogenic diet, carbon-60 serum, If you're interested more in that, check out my conversation with Dr. Ian Mitchell from Wizard Sciences. Very knowledgeable guy. There's a lot of cool things that we've talked about. We're seeing things float to the surface. We've got a podcast planned here in the next couple months with naturopathic doctors talking about depreciation of tumor size associated with things like retatrutide and exploring peptides and other things that are kind of masked by the FDA and the World Health Organization. And this is genuinely me being curious in that space after losing two parents to cancer and wishing that they were still here, wishing that I could still give them a phone call, wishing that I could still spend time with them and share all the cool developments of ALLSMITH with them. But it's just me being curious based on loss. So this isn't health or medical advice. I'm not sitting here on a high horse as a doctor telling you what to do. But I am saying knock on the door with those things. I am saying that there's some cool research that's unlocking and starting to float to the surface that may not be funded by big pharma, that could provide some additional resources to optimize your health. If we backtrack a little bit and we look at something like COVID, ivermectin got very demonized with Joe Rogan. Ivermectin has shown to be very valuable, especially combined with, I may be mispronouncing this, but I think it's fenbenzanol. And that combination, tune in to that conversation on Joe Rogan with, who was it? I'll put it in the show notes for you guys, but I've got his head in my headspace right now, like his facial expression. I'm blanking on his name right now. But they talked in depth around how fenbenzanol and ivermectin can be valuable as a cancer treatment. And, maybe not for everybody, but I'm one of those people that's just like, okay, if it could help, let's explore this a little bit. And so going back to that original conversation, that quote, like, why do we trade our health in pursuit of wealth? Why can't we do both? Why can't we take care of ourselves and microdose fitness into our day, microdose optimal morning and evening routines, and find ways to implement fitness snacks? Every time the microwave is on, let's do 60 seconds of air squats, 60 seconds of push-ups. Why can't we fit 10,000 steps in a day and take our kids on walks? Why can't we optimize our nutrition to be around real food? Meat, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. It's because we're dopamine addicts. We want to feel good. We want that short term, like, oh, this feels good, but feel good doesn't always lead to perform good. It doesn't always lead to depreciation of health biomarkers. It leads to inflammation. And so what I'm pushing in today's conversation is question everything. Be curious, to ask harder questions. And when you find things that align with your goals, go back to that main theme of today's chat. Decide, hey, this is in alignment with the life that I want to live and the man or the woman that I want to become. Period. Make the choice. Cool. I'm going to stick to this for 90 days. And I'm going to treat myself as an experiment. I have this hypothesis. I learned from said individual. Now I'm going to implement this strategy. And then I will have a personal anecdotal case study. It's not about being right. It's about being curious and experimental. And then as a byproduct, now you have evidence that this either aligns or doesn't align with the life that you want to live. It requires you to be an active participant, not just an observer looking at what some expert or some person said on Instagram or social media or TikTok. Hear something, be curious about it, explore it. I mean, how many forms of AI do we have now? Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, there's so many different things. Put things in there, compare and contrast. If you're going to doom scroll, you might as well do it in a way that's going to add value to your operating system in your life. So just some thoughts there, why do we choose to trade the thing that we want, time, for the thing that's supposed to give it money? I think there's a world where we can navigate both. And I think that comes down to optimizing our nervous system, and making decisions that are in alignment with the life that we want to live. And that's not a one-size-fits-all model. It's just gaining clarity. It's doing reflection, meeting with your partner, observing your kids, creating a vision, and dreaming until you can make that your reality. Create this vision, backtrack towards it. I think that's something that could be really valuable for you guys. Fear and action. This is a big one that I literally wrote it in like all caps in my notes. And if you eliminate the downside, your action threshold drops. And my mentor said this to me the other day. They're like, Bryce, what if it all goes right? It's like, man, I'm always like with a fire extinguisher preparing for the next fire. And he's like, dude, fear inflates the risk. Like if you're trying to get better at risk tolerance, maybe you should just like take the step and realize that fear is a mile wide. It looks scary, but it's a fucking inch deep. Take the step. I wish I had that advice like 10 fucking years ago. But now I'm giving it to you. So hopefully you're hearing this and you're like, whoa, that choice, that action reshaped the entirety of my life. It led to relationships that I never thought I'd have. It led to a business that I never thought would develop. It led to service, innovation, creativity, learning lessons, pain, everything in between. But look at all those feelings that have come and how many opportunities to learn came from taking that action, because that momentum has created my identity. Stagnation is the enemy. Staying put, being comfortable, that eventually is gonna be an atomic bomb to your headspace, to your development, and to your growth as an individual. And so just realize that like fear inflates the risk. If you have something that nozzle or that volume in your heart and your soul is really starting to like turn up, maybe listen to that. Maybe pay attention to it, because eventually whispers become shouts. Eventually whispers become shouts. But you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to be in pursuit of what is right rather than being right. And so to bring these things full circle, guys, like at the end of life, most people don't regret the risks that they took. They regret the conversations that they avoided, the selves that they postponed, the decisions they never made. Why should you tune into ALLSMITH? We're at the intersection of who you are and who you could be. We're here to have the hard conversation, to ask the tough questions, to admit when we're wrong, and to push the envelope or add a highlight with 3 exclamation points underlined in bold when we think something is working in that season of life. Life's not heavy just because it's hard. It's heavy because it's unlived. So my challenge for you today is to choose the path, choose the conversation, choose the life. Don't settle, don't surrender. Continue seeking your edge. Notice when you feel uncomfortable. Rather than being avoidant, deflective, or actively participating in ghosting culture, respond. Have the hard conversation. It's going to give you data of this is either for me or not for me. You ultimately get to decide if you like a certain flavor, a certain energy. When you're around certain relationships, people either build you up or they break you down. You know. Tune in. Listen. Because once again, those shouts started as whispers. Use that word decide, because you get to choose what choices allow the rest of your life to become the best of your life. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Become forged, not found. Until next time, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Take care.